Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be practicing with Copic and Prismacolor markers for a couple different reasons. One is I want to just do some marker practice as a warm-up for a video I'm going to be making very soon. And two, I stumbled upon this gorgeous piece of art that I did way the hell back in 2006 or so. I was very deep in my Naruto phase and my Kakashi obsession. To any of my friends who remember that time, I am sorry for what I put you through. There's actually a third reason for working on this project right now, and that is that I'm going through being quite sick right now. So oil painting, which is my current main project, doesn't sound super fun at the moment. My brain is already soup. I don't want to huff any more paint thinner, any more than I have to anyway. And I do hope that my voice doesn't sound too rough in this voiceover. So what you're seeing right now is my sketch. I already had some plans worked out as for what I was going to do and kind of what I had in mind in terms of color scheme. This original drawing was done on the back of manga manuscript paper, which is what I'm also going to be using today. This time I'm going to be working on the front and using the printed guidelines. I'm also not going to be copying my original exactly, mostly because I want to avoid having a background that's just one solid color. That is unnecessarily cruel to put my markers through a large space like this, and if you look at the original, I was not doing a very good job at smoothly coloring the background, to say the least. So instead, I decided to do something that I'm bad at on camera, which is backgrounds and perspective work. At this angle, I'm drawing Kakashi, and his shoulders are forming a strong diagonal line, so I wanted to have something else basically forming a diagonal line that was going to contrast that, and that's why I added in the bridge. The rest of the scenery in the background kind of was built up around that. A lot of the sketch footage and some of the subsequent footage is me fighting with perspective and losing. Just don't think too hard about anything happening in the background. I changed my mind on a few things at some point. You'll see some buildings get erased and redrawn in different perspectives. I did want to have a little bit of sky that was still showing. I liked the concept of the stars in the original piece. I decided to leave the moon out and the Pringle, Lay's potato chip, perhaps a lemon peel. But seriously, I think it was supposed to be a shooting star, but I would forgive you for not having any idea what it was either. When I got to the inking process, I used a few different micron fine liners, a brush pen, and then an actual brush with an ink pot. When I was young, about the time that I did this original illustration, actually, I started a really bad Naruto fan comic. I didn't really get anywhere on the comic. It was 8 pages of nothing, where I tried to emulate the style of the manga, and I had large areas of solid black, and I used a Sharpie to color in all those solid black areas, and I think I still have brain damage from the fumes I inhaled that afternoon. When I brought that comic into school the next day to show my friends, the pages were still so stinky that my friend Joyce had to hold it several feet away from her face while she was reading it so she wasn't inhaling the stank. That was the moment I started thinking, hey, maybe I should practice using actual ink instead of killing a ton of Sharpies and my brain cells. I'm not really as confident with using a brush and ink bottle for inking, so that's why we're going to be doing that on camera also. That's kind of the theme of this episode. It's let's do things I'm bad at while the camera is running. In some ways, that's a good idea because, yeah, I can just pause my recording, and I do that plenty of times. I pause to go dig around through my markers and find the right color. But when my phone is on the filming rack and that battery is going, it does put a little bit of pressure on you. You can't stop and think about it too much. You just gotta go. You will notice there are a few swatches of ink that appeared on the top of the page before I actually started the inking, and that was the ink from my ink pot, both the black ink and the blue ink, and I just put those down to see how they'll behave on the paper and if the alcohol markers are going to cause any issue when I use them on top of the ink. Both of these inks were acrylic based, so I didn't anticipate any issue, but I figured it is a good idea to check anyway. Once I got to the markers, I was using mostly Copics and Prismacolors. There's a couple of other, a much crappier brand of marker that got involved, and we're gonna skewer that brand pretty thoroughly in my upcoming video where I'm gonna do a full alcohol marker throwdown with maybe a dark horse in there that isn't an alcohol marker, but you'll just have to see it when it comes out. That original piece that we're recreating it's not my very first piece I ever did in Copic markers, but it's definitely one of my very first. Looking at the really streaky coloring, that is quite painful to see now. I was using some very expensive tools at a skill level better suited maybe for some scented Mr. Sketch markers. But I've always appreciated that my parents would get me nice quality art supplies. They're just as excited about art supplies as I am. When we went to the Anime Expo in about 2006, we went to a Copic marker workshop that was super interesting, super informative. And afterwards, we visited their booth on the con floor, and that's where I picked out all my first colors. I was super excited to use markers that all the cool manga artists use. Because clearly that puts me on the same level as them, right? No, not even. It has taken me until very, very recently to really figure out how to use alcohol markers in a way that I think is most effective for my art style. It wasn't until recently that I just kind of cracked the code of color layering. But in this piece, I was kind of trying to rein it in more. Specifically with Kakashi, I was trying to go for more of a flat cell-shaded style, which I should have done more in the background. I was, once again, fighting with the background in the coloring section. I should have been a lot more simple in how I colored everything. Maybe just used a very small selection of colors, though I do really like how the glow of the lanterns looks. One of my number one problems when I deal with backgrounds is I just throw too much in the background. I add too much detail in places that aren't really important for the piece, and when you just have so much extra detail, so much extra color in the background, it kind of just turns into background soup. And I sincerely hope that the final product of this piece is not soup. I did at some point go back in with some Copics and add to the background that was originally just ink and brush, because I wanted to even out the sky a little bit more. I did very briefly consider adding in a moon, and I was thinking of having it kind of peeking out from behind the tower, maybe being a little bit overlapped by that flag, because it would look really cool to take a white brush pen and kind of have the moonbeams shining through the flag. I thought that would be really neat, but I was also worried I was just going to completely screw up my background. But in the end, I am pretty darn happy with how this turned out, especially considering this is something I just did spontaneously while getting over having the plague. I could even go as far as to do some digital edits in the background and see how it looks when it is a little flatter compared to making Kakashi a little more of a brighter, more saturated color scheme. But overall, I think I am going to call it a success. So I hope you all enjoyed following along with my work process. I'll be back very soon with some more marker stuff and hopefully with painting stuff soon as well. I can only hope. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.